I've never actually been in vicious melee combat to the death. I can't say that I won't be, especially considering how easily people panic these days, but I can say the scenario is one I generally try to avoid in reality. Maybe that's why I'm so enamored with the possibility of achieving it virtually. Luckily, I think I've finally found a game that lets me dive into this probably sadistic fantasy exactly the way I want to. Chivalry 2 isn't the first game to dive headfirst into visceral melee combat. I suppose that should be obvious from the 2 in the name. Yet it is one of the first times that one of these games has appealed to me for more than a moment. Previous games were interesting, but I could never get into the swing of things, or more appropriately the part where the opponent's swings didn't cleave my head into the next area code. As much as I wanted to, I couldn't even get into the rich combat of For Honor. Perhaps due to my long-running inability to get even kind of good at fighting games, the third-person twitch of countering, dodging, and sneaking in effective attacks wasn't a style of gameplay that kept my interest. Yet as I go charging into fights, screaming like I've already won simply by making it to the battlefield, I'm fully on board the chaotic festival of severed limbs and ragdoll bodies Chivalry 2 delivers. It's more than that though. I think one of the most appealing components of Chivalry 2 is how it straddles the line between an action-focused twitch shooter and a slower-paced tactical foray into combat. You're just as likely to end up isolated one-on-one with someone truly testing your skills and attacking and defending and probably getting stabbed in the back as you are swinging wildly in a medieval mosh pit of blood and viscera. The great thing about those distinct scenarios is that both of them manage to work in this game. Sure, it can be hard to stay in single combat if you're not specifically seeking it out, but even a short foray into this experience can demonstrate the tension of these encounters. Similarly, combat in large groups may be the focus of the game, but there's a good chance you'll end up with your weapon lodged in the ass of your supposed allies because it's surprisingly hard to swing large heavy metal objects while shoulder to shoulder. Yet even with those problems, I find myself continuing to charge in for more. The flexibility of the combat system of Chivalry 2 is what makes those distinct scenarios possible. Being able to approach a situation with more than just a generic swing and a generic block already puts it above most melee combat in video games. With melee weapons, you can choose a standard swing, which can of course be chained into a 3-swing combo, or you can switch it up for an overhead swing or a forward thrust. All of these attacks have their strengths and weaknesses, but each has roles that it can play in ensuring your success in battle. Side swings can often be the easiest to execute, but offer a broader stroke that can allow you to cleave through as many enemies as you can get to stand in front of you. Yet you're just as likely to have those side swings rest in the spines of your adjacent allies in the process. When things are especially intimate, overhead swings and thrusts are your best friends. All of these attacks benefit from a technique called dragging, which involves turning your body with the path of the swing. It can turn the horizontal arc of your attack from a piddly 90 degrees to an ass-blasting 180+ degree murder swing if executed properly. It can also ensure that your attack reaches the enemy before their attack can reach you, which is the key to not being dead quite as often. These also work for overhead and thrust attacks as well, adding precious points to the damage you do to the various body parts of your enemies. Attacking is important, of course, but the real technique comes with defending. Everyone has the ability to block nearly any attack that finds its way toward their face. All you have to do is hold the right click and you're ready to go. But as you're blocking, you're draining your stamina that allows you to do heavy attacks and, once gone, will force your noodle arms to drop your weapon and look like the last chicken wing at a cookout. So the key to blocking is doing it only when you need to, preferably at the last second to save stamina. Aside from the obvious advantage of not being decapitated, blocking has additional uses. If you attack right after blocking an attack, you get a riposte that's slightly faster than a normal attack and automatically blocks all incoming damage. This can turn a multi-enemy fight where you'd normally get fucked into a situation where you can easily ruin at least a few people's day. Taking this even further, timing an attack from blocking that's the same attack that someone else is launching at you will cause you to counter. Like a riposte, this blocks the attack and launches a faster attack at them while also refunding your stamina in the process. That saved stamina means more time to block and more of a chance to overcome their stamina loss, thus leaving them as the final delicious chicken wing. The depth of this combat is enhanced by the variety of weapons available and the 4 main classes that can equip them. The classes aren't exceptionally distinct as you would expect since they're all just regular medieval dudes in various amounts of armor. Outside of the obvious differences in hit points, maneuverability, and stamina, the only reason to pick one class over the other is weapon selection. There's plenty of overlap between them, but each class and subclass has a specific selection of weapons and special skills. While none may necessarily make or break a round, you can strategically select your character based on what objectives you want to achieve. Grabbing a footman to build up some walls to funnel the enemy can be surprisingly effective. Some classes like the Vanguard can toss a firebomb that can devastate enemies huddled together defending a capture point. Other times, it's best just to choose the Knight and occupy as much space as possible with your thick-ass armor while deflecting arrows with your shield. This tactical choice isn't really necessary though. Outside of being an archer and having everyone hate you as you stand in the back and snatch opportunistic kills, every class can contribute toward a win. I'd even unofficially and off the record say archers can be strong contributors to success in any given round. After running through a series of hammer and hammer-like weapons across several classes, I finally unlocked the Maul with the Vanguard, and I usually find myself exploding skulls and crushing rib cages with only joy in my eyes. This may not always be the best choice that fits the situation, but I figure as long as I can turn every Knight into clearance section canned goods, my chances of winning will increase. The amount that tactics matter really depends on the map you're playing. Team Deathmatch can offer the best place to go toe-to-toe with enemies with only the point and/or heavy ends of your weapons deciding the winners. Team Objective maps, however, usually require a little more nuance, and victory seems like it may be just as much in the hands of the map designers as it is in the skill of the players in the match. Team Deathmatch maps are some of my favorite despite the fact that they often swing wildly in favor of one team or the other. Squeezing 64 players into an arena smaller than a football field is a recipe for only the most unhinged chaos as you can imagine. You can really test your skills, and if you're feeling especially masochistic, you can take all of this into free-for-all and experience the true essence of anarchy. Team Objective maps, on the other hand, have a wide variety of good and not-so-good qualities. One good aspect is that they're some of the best places to take advantage of class specialties and tactical gameplay. The defensive nature of archers, tied in with the advantageous design of battlements and defensive structures, stand out here. A wide variety of tasks like pushing battering rams and setting explosives on doors focus combat into specific areas and often require teamwork both to attack and defend. Sometimes this feels like the best part of the game design, but other times you're just left to wonder what the designers were thinking. There are points on maps that turn into the closest literal description of a meat grinder I can conceive of, as choke points squeeze dozens of players into enclosed areas and through narrow doorways. Yet others spread objectives out so significantly that defending them requires at least 5 to 7 miracles to succeed. Several maps end with objectives that put the highest ranking player on a team as the leader that must be killed by the opposition to win. Putting this victory condition in the hands of one out of up to 64 players may be the single greatest experiment in troll research ever engineered. Even as new maps are added and old maps are tweaked, this bipolar experience continues. It can be frustrating not to have a consistent experience, but the core gameplay is really what keeps me coming back. A combination of near-continuous action, a visceral yet rewarding combat system, and a steady set of progression makes Chivalry 2 difficult to put down. The fact that you can level up each weapon, each class, and your overall account leaves plenty of room for feeling like you're always achieving something. Each rank within a class can unlock subclasses and weapon choices. As you rank up each weapon type, you'll gain access to cosmetic options, and these let me take my hammers from drab to fab with only a little in-game currency. There are, of course, microtransactions available, but they only work as shortcuts to what you can unlock with in-game currency. However, I wasn't really able to tolerate this clunky UI for character customization long enough to feel the need to throw real money at it. As long as my enemies can momentarily see their reflection in the business end of my hammer, that's all I really need. Chivalry 2 may not be perfect, but from the moment I played the open beta, I knew it was a game I wanted to spend some quality time with. Every time I encounter a great moment like winning a one-on-one duel with the skills I've accumulated or coming out on top of a fight where I'm outnumbered with the luck I've accumulated, I feel like a champion. Those moments when I can heave a hammer through the air and smash a fleeing opponent are moments of magnificent glory, only cut short by my realization that I no longer have a weapon. When time is running out on an objective and the music starts to crescendo to the point that it's drowning out the clashes of metal on metal and the screams of players ripping into one another until it gets to the final adrenaline-pounding seconds, then you lose. I'm still ready for another round. I don't know if these qualities are necessary to make a game good, or even if they're good qualities for most games, but they're definitely what makes Chivalry 2 so damn fun.
The Mason Armada is free to pass!